Google or the YouTube. Same thing. I'm just Group me. Please tell me I'm logged in. Copy this.
Dallas, did you study up on any AFC, NFC championship game stuff?
I took a look at like past NFC title games just to look at some of the teams. I did not look like any players or any stats, so we'll see how much I can remember who is on those teams. I did not look at the AFC though.
Yeah, I'll look at at least the teams that played each year.
Yeah.
All right, we're ready to go. Let me flick back to the script. All righty. So it is SMC show number 16. We're getting close to the 20 mark, guys. We're getting there. We're getting there. Just a few more weeks. Today we have a lot to talk about. Of course, it is the same, the usual suspects, Rishi, Dallas, and I. We're going to talk about the keys to the championship for each team / prediction. So we are now onto the NFL Division Championship Series, and then we have some Do You Know Ball is making its second annual segment this week. It is NFL Championship Heroes of the Games. The last question is not about that, but I will preface that question. Then might have stole this from the ESPN. We're giving the basketball midterm grades. We are about halfway through the season. So we're going to give some grades for some teams, men's and women's side. So if you have a lot to say about the women's side, jump on in and let's hear about it. And then we are, I know NBA and popular media dubbed their all-star teams, but we're going to give the SMC All-Star team for the NBA. I think we're going to be a little different than them. And then we're going to hit some hot takes. And if there's anything else anyone wants to talk about in the chat, of course, we'll be there to talk about it. So first off, we have the keys to the championship. I just want it to be noted, none of us got close on any predictions last weekend. The score predictions were not our strong suit, but we got this week's games. First game we're going to start out with is the 49ers versus the Eagles. Who'd like to start out with their keys to the game or keys to the championship, and then the the game prediction?
I can go. This game is, for me, I have a little bit more of an opinion on it than the next game. I think that the Eagles will do a good job at stopping the run. And I saw a stat the other day. I must have been watching a game where it showed the 49ers defense against 25-yard or more passes, and then the Eagles offense. And essentially showed the 49ers are one of the worst teams at defending that, and the Eagles are one of the best teams, or they're the number one team at 25-yard downfield throws. So I was going to say my key to the game for the 49ers is you got to win the turnover battle, because if you're struggling in the run game and if you can't defend the long pass game, then you got to win the turnover battle to make up that difference. And so I'll take the Eagles to make the Super Bowl.
I'm not going to ask for any scoring because last week we struggled. So you had stop the run for the Eagles. Run for the Eagles. 49ers need to win the turnover battle. But the Eagles will be dominant. The Eagles will make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll take them as my winner.
All right, Dallas, would you like to go?
Yeah, I agree with Rishi that the turnover battle is going to be huge. I think the key for the Niners is running the football and keeping Brock Purdy out of those third and long situations. He had quite a bit of those against the Cowboys because the Cowboys actually stopped the run pretty well, which I thought was very surprising. So I expect Kyle Shanahan to dial up some plays, get McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell maybe in there at the same time, run some RPOs, get McCaffrey and Mitchell some more space to work with. I think I could key factor in this game is going to be Debo. I think you could very possibly see Debo getting double-digit carries in this game. I could see them going back to Debo at running back, maybe splitting McCaffrey out wide a few times. I think that'll cause the Eagles some issues. But I think the key to this game is definitely the 49ers running the ball and staying out of the third and longs. If they do, they're in a world of trouble because then the Eagles pass rush will get there. And that's just not going to bode well for Purdy. Struggled a little bit under pressure against the Cowboys. So I think that's the key. I'm not worried about the 49ers defense. I think they'll stop the Eagles enough to take the Eagles down a little bit. I still have the Eagles winning this game, though. As you know, from the beginning of the season, had Eagles a Super Bowl, cannot back down now.
All right. Well, I might have influenced that Eagles to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying. My keys to the game, I think it is going to be a defensive coordinator battle. I do not think it's going to be an offensive coordinator battle. I think it is going to be Jonathan Gannon versus D'Amico Ryans, and who can pull out some more elaborate zones, see different schemes. Both of these guys have been considered for head coaching jobs as of recently, so I think this could be a game that kind of decides their future. Gannon is not a big front runner for many organizations, but is in the conversation. So I think those two are going to be interesting to see who dials up what. When do they dial up blitz and pressure? I think the Eagles do kind of hold the penultimate key in the fact that they have the most depth, speaking from a linebacker to edge rusher to defensive down lineman. They do hold a lot more than I feel like the 49ers do. I feel like the 49ers had a lot of players last week who were not premier pass rushers get and win in those games. So I think that's going to be interesting. The Eagles are going to hold that. I do think the one saving grace to the 49ers is Fred Warner. He's going to be my key player of the game. They probably win that game based on whatever he does. If he has a good game, I can see the 49ers winning a game. I think if he gets an interception, forces those short passes to get like broken up, taken down, I think that's where they kind of burned a lot of the game time in against the Giants, as they were able to get those quick runs, get those quick passes in the middle of the field. So Fred Warner's job is going to be to hold down that middle part of the field. But I think for the Eagles, I think the Eagles are going to once again go back to that three-headed rushing monster they own in Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, and Kenny Gainwell. All three had really good games against the Giants, so I think it's going to be key that the 49ers stop it. I'm uneasy about this game. I can see both teams winning. I really like Brock Purdy. I think it is going to require, like both of you said, for them to get out of script and to get into situations where Brock Purdy is more likely to do something right. And I don't think Brock Purdy is going to be the reason they lose the game. I think the Eagles are just a superior team in this situation, offensively and defensively. So I have the Eagles winning by a field goal. I can't say that I think they're going to win by how bad they beat the Giants, but I think they're going to show that they can definitely punch above their weight and prove that this is a game that everyone's been saying has been like the Eagles' hardest game all year next to the Cowboys. So I think it'll be an interesting game. A lot to watch. I think this is probably going to be a more interesting game than I think the Bengals and Chiefs will be, I will say. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
With that being said, would you like to tell us your prediction for that game? Because I think that might be a bold take.
Bengals versus Chiefs. I think the key to the game is is going to be attack Patrick Mahomes for the Bengals. As we know, he did get injured last week with a high ankle sprain. They've said nothing's wrong with him. He's felt good practicing. I mean, they're probably just trying. I mean, you're sitting at a poker table and you're sitting there with a 2, a 3, and a 4, and you're just hoping that on that turn you're not going to get burned. I I think they're playing smart. I just think that's watching that Bengals game, they did a lot to Josh Allen. They got him out of his comfort zone. They didn't really allow him to rush around. They didn't allow him to do much. They had a lot of the stuff covered. And I think, looking at it realistically, the Bills have a lot better receivers than the Chiefs do. So if you're able to cover Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Cole Beasley, I mean, you're not going to have a problem against Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney. I think you're gonna see the Chiefs try things. I think they're going to have to lean on their running game. So, they might want to establish that in the first drive. But I think attack Patrick Mahomes will be the Bengals' key to the week. Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard will get off the edges. They might even send some pressure. They got into a lot of pressure packages against the Bills, forced one of the worst games I've seen scatter plot wise from Josh Allen. I mean, just a heinous pick. He didn't get anything going past 20 yards all game. He had two completions past 20 yards. So, I think that's probably a key for them. So I think they're good. I think if you're looking at the Chiefs, saying what the Chiefs need to do, I think the Chiefs are going to have their best defensive game of the year to beat the Bengals. I think you watched utter domination from the Bengals over that Buffalo defense all game long. I know the Buffalo got banged up a lot through the game. Their secondary hasn't been the same all year, but I think the Chiefs will have to literally put on their best defensive performance to stop the Bengals. I think you're going to have to throw everything, all your packages you've been running all year. You're going to have to unload the playbook defensively and offensively to beat the Bengals, but I have the Bengals winning by 2 touchdowns. I think things happen. I think things get weird. I think Patrick Mahomes, for the first time in a long time, is unhappy and uncomfortable in the game, and I think the Bengals win by 2 tutties. So,
see, as confident as I am in the Bengals defense and also the Eagles defense, they're also going up against Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid. So I can't be too confident in them, because for both of those defenses, that's kind of the ultimate test, going up against those two coaches. But I'll say my key to this game is the Bengals got to find that chip on their shoulder. I feel like all week, all we've been hearing about is Burrowhead. Burrow's 3-0 in Arrowhead. We all know what Eli Apple's been doing on Twitter. But I do think that there's kind of been this built-in chip on their shoulder for Kansas City, because obviously the Mahomes injury and essentially the entire nation seems like they're behind the Bengals right now, when the Chiefs are the team that have been to the AFC Championship game 5 years in a row, and somehow they're the team that seems like they have the bigger chip on their shoulder. So I think that's the key for the Bengals. But ultimately, in terms of predicting this game, like, I'm not going to pretend like I know what's going to happen. I don't even think Vegas has a strong opinion on what they think is going to happen. If you
I
look
think
at the
they
line.
have the spread at 2.5.
Well, so it's been weird, because the line opened with the Chiefs are a slight favorite, and then quickly went to the Bengals are a slight favorite, and then Mahomes did his press conference where he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine," and then now the Chiefs are favored. But I don't know if you watch that Mahomes press conference. Let me do a little reenactment here. He had to go down some stairs, and so instead of like limping and doing this, here's what he did. He just went quickly went down the stairs. I don't know. Watch the clip, review the film. You guys tell me. But I don't know if that ankle's 100%. To me, it looked like he was trying to hop down those stairs and intentionally not limp. But either way, I trust Mahomes to play well, so I'm not going to know how this game is going to go, but I'll pick the Bengals.
Yeah, there's been a little something that the other team has said that gives the Bengals a little bit of edge. Just one thing that you say wrong gives the Bengals something. And Rishi was talking about this, and Willie Gay said this yesterday. They asked him in an interview. They said, "What is so unique about the Bengals offense?" And he said nothing. He said nothing. He's not worried about the offense at all. I think that is a bad thing to say. The Bengals use this, and I think the key to this game is just Bengals not turning it over. I think if the Bengals don't turn it over at all on the offensive end and give the Chiefs free field position, give Andy Reid free things, I think that's the key, and they win this game if they don't turn it over. Because I trust the defense to an extent. Because last 3 times I played, defensive coordinator Lou really has had a really good game plan for Andy Reid's offense.
Big
and
Lou Anarumo.
Got a
Big
big
Lou.
turnover in each of the games. The Bengals defense usually finds a way to get one big one. They usually find a way to get one big one, and that's all it's going to take in this game. I think this game is going to be super fun. You look at the last game, the Travis Kelce fumble, Jermaine Pratt strips him in the regular season this year. Bengals go down, they drive, and win the game.
Last year,
One turnover is going to be
the
key
goal
to
line package. The goal line package right before half.
That was
Yep.
the big momentum shift. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, a pick that meant nothing, that we thought would mean nothing before half. I mean, ended up turning the game on its head.
That was awesome.
Great stuff.
So
But
I think
you all know my pick.
Bengals win. Guys, I just want to say this is we are all on the same page here for the first time. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Is that a good thing? Looking at our hot take records.
I don't know. The hot takes are close, man. Like when I go over each week's hot take, like we all do like legger parlays, and they're always like decent. Like I'm always like, oh, that could have hit. I mean, they're all good takes. I mean, but sometimes we just miss by like the minutia things. We're not missing by like the big like home runs. We're missing by like ground out doubles. I mean, like or ground out singles. Like, come on. But now on to everyone's favorite segment from last week and everyone's favorite segment going forward. Do you know ball? So, gentlemen, today is the NFL Division Championship Game Heroes. So I'm going to give you a date and a game. Nobody please look this up because you ruined the whole fun of the game trying to guess who this is. First, I gotta get to the questions. The first game, gentlemen, as you see, I did write what division the games are in for you, but that's all I gave you. You got nothing. First question. On January 24th, 2016, this NFC quarterback capped a 49-16 win versus the Arizona Cardinals with 235 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 47 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Who am I?
Wait, did you say the division?
NFC quarterback versus Arizona in 2016.
That's the conference, brother.
I can't give you the team. I can give you the division.
Let me
I can
think.
give you the NFC division.
Okay.
He was in the NFC South when he was on this team.
Man, I'm trying to think. So 2016, this would have to be the team that made the Super Bowl, right?
Yes, this is the team that made the Super Bowl.
One guy that comes to mind, Rishi. NFC South, Cam Newton comes to mind. 2 rushing touchdowns as a guy that likes to run the ball. I thought Carolina was 2015 because I looked at this earlier. I thought it was 2015. I could have been 1 year off though, because initially I thought Russell Wilson, but he said that he gave us a division. So NFC South, I think it has to be Cam Newton.
Yeah, for some reason I was going through the AFC South teams in my head, so I think you're right though. Yeah, I think I even remember maybe a Carolina-Arizona playoff matchup too.
You gentlemen are correct. It is the one and only Superman Cam Newton. What a legendary performance. Took them to the Super Bowl. I don't know who I think that was the Denver Super Bowl, actually. Because if you think about it, like the year's always off because it's the new year technically. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Okay. Next question. I just want you to guys know that all the team names will now be in there because these players are not premier players on their teams. So best of luck. On January 18th, 2015, this Patriots running back had 30 carries, 148 yards, 3 touchdowns to beat the Indianapolis Colts 45-7. Who am I? He is a former Patriots running back. Former.
Sounds like Dallas has got it.
Rishi, I just want to hear what you have because I have a guy that came to mind instantly.
I mean, I'm trying to come up with a few other names than this guy because I don't think this guy would have got 30 carries, but LeGarrette Blount might have been somewhere in that timeline. I don't think he might be the answer, but who do you have?
That was who I was thinking, LeGarrette Blount, because the carries, New England doesn't give other guy like that 30 carries.
I'm good with going with him because he was the
LeGarrette
first
Blount
name.
would consider 30 carries. You said against the Colts?
Yes.
I believe LeGarrette Blount had a big game against the Colts. That's who I'd go with.
Final answer, are we locking in LeGarrette Blount?
Lock that in.
That is correct. It is LeGarrette Blount. I thought I was going to get you guys on that one. I was thinking irrelevant Patriots running backs, and you guys were going to be stuck.
That was a good one.
I was like, when Dallas put his hand up, I was like, yeah, he definitely has this one in the bag. All right, this is one of the hardest questions that I will give you, gentlemen. This may predate any of our birth, but it'll be okay. On January 14th, 2001, this New York Giants quarterback went 28 for 39 with 381 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Who am I?
That is 3 days before my birth. And I'm not going to pretend to know New York Giants quarterbacks prior to Eli Manning very well. Any leads, Dallas?
Oh God.
I will give you where he went to college. Just give me 5 minutes.
Nothing on this.
Is this like an old guy who talks on TV now, maybe?
Does not talk on TV. He played for 6 NFL teams. I'll say them: Carolina, New York, the Titans, and the Colts.
All right. That could be a good hint.
I'm trying to find out where he went to college. Okay, so he started his career in Carolina, then was cut, picked up by the Giants, played on the Giants from 1999 to 2003, then went to Oakland, Tennessee, and then finished his career in 2011 as a backup quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts.
I mean, I'm stumped.
You say he doesn't talk on TV, so that rule out Hasselbeck because that came to mind, but it's definitely not him.
He went to Penn State University and is considered a legend of Penn State football. He won the Maxwell Award and the Davey O'Brien and the Sammy Baugh Trophy as a senior and was drafted in 1955. Or 1995, whoops. 19. And was the first selection in the 1995 NFL draft.
Ooh.
Dang.
If you're feeling stumped, you can always answer, I have no idea.
I think that's my answer. I don't even have I was going to say, maybe this is a good time for a phone a friend. I don't have anyone who's a big New York Giants. Oh, I do have a New York Giants friend, but this predates him as well.
Yeah. This is going to be frustrating once we hear the name, I feel like.
I don't even know the name, so I don't know if you guys are going to be mad.
I have no idea. I think we're going to take our first L in this segment, Richie.
The first L has been officially handed out on Do You Know Ball, gentlemen. This is insane. This New York Giants legend is Kerry Collins.
See, that's a name I've heard. Would have never in a million years gotten to Kerry Collins on that guess.
All right. That was tough. I felt that you guys struggled there. It was a good question. I did not know who he was, but a legendary NFL performances, 5 touchdowns, and the 2 interceptions hurt him, but the 5 touchdowns was the impressive part. Again, this is actually a premier player. I was wrong when I said that. So I'm only going to give you the division he was in. He is currently an NFL player, though. So you guys want this former, and so January 20th, 2013, this former NFC South wide receiver recorded 11 passes for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. The most impressive part was not that he had those stats, but he put up 100 receiving yards and a touchdown in the first quarter alone. Who am I?
So 2013 NFC title game.
NFC South player.
Would this be the Saints? You think, Dallas?
That's where I'm leaning towards. There's a few names that come to mind. One is Marquise Colston.
That's a good name.
Yeah, I just don't know if he'd have. Trying to think of some more Saints receivers.
Did he specify whether it's a receiver or a tight end? Actually, this has to be a receiver.
It is a wide receiver.
Okay.
And this wide receiver went to the University of Alabama.
I don't know where Marquise Colston went to college, but I feel like Alabama could definitely be the school he went to, if you want to go with that.
Oh, man.
We can play a game of hot and cold to determine if your team is correct.
Oh, it might not even be the Saints. Oh, no.
Would you like the hot or cold answer?
If it's not the Saints, I think we're in a little bit of trouble.
The Saints are cold on this one.
Uh-oh. All right. So who else? I guess we don't know for sure if they made the Super Bowl, but I'd imagine if this guy had 100 yards and a touchdown in the first quarter, there's a good chance they did. Did you give us the opponent they went up against?
I'm typing the game right now, so just give me a second. The 49ers. They lost to this team lost to the 49ers by 4 points.
Oh.
They were held scoreless in the third and the fourth quarter.
He said before this it was a marquee player.
Yeah.
He said it was a marquee player.
This is a marquee player who is currently still in the NFL and is an active player.
Oh, I forgot about the whole active player thing.
That takes away my guess because I thought it was going to be Carolina and Steve Smith.
That was my first thought.
Yeah.
Carolina and Steve Smith is indeed cold. You are you are all out of the hot and cold answers, gentlemen. You have two teams here.
Now, I think active player, you have to look at the Atlanta Falcons and Julio Jones.
Yeah, he's out of all the receivers I can think of in Atlanta at that time, he's the only guy that's still active. I think Dallas got this one right after all our hints.
Yeah, it took a while, but I don't think it's the Buccaneers. I can't think of a Buccaneers receiver that at that time that's even being active now. So,
and if this was Kaepernick, I feel like I can remember him going against the Falcons in the playoffs. So I'm good with Julio Jones.
Yeah, I think that's who we go with.
Locking it in?
Yeah.
Julio Jones is the correct answer.
Dude, I'm riding on Dallas's coattails in this game.
I would just like to say that I really could have thrown you for a loop if I said Atlanta Falcons legend, because I'm going to name the wide receiving core on this team. Julio Jones, Roddy White, Tony Gonzalez, Harry Douglas, and Jaquise Rogers. That really could have caused a lot of...
If you didn't give us current active player, I don't know if we would have gotten that.
I felt that was a good answer. I felt that was okay. I'm going to preface this next question. This next question is not a player, but it is a team. and it is about the NFC Championship. Which team leads the NFC Championship in the most interceptions ever to be thrown in their span? So I'm putting this into perspective. This team has played in a good amount of NFC championships, but they've thrown the most amount of interceptions in that championship.
Well,
Just like all time NFC title games, like every
Yep.
single one.
I mean,
But
Packers
their
come to
quarterbacks
mind.
that have thrown them are recent, I will say. They are 2000s quarterbacks that have been probably to blame for the egregious number of interceptions.
I really like that team, Rishi, that you said. I really like that. We know the Packers come to the title game a lot.
And he said quarterbacks because they've got two recent guys who I didn't watch football a ton when Brett Favre played, but I'd imagine he made a few NFC title games. And then obviously Aaron Rodgers. If they're throwing a decent amount of picks, maybe there are teams that didn't make the Super Bowl, which would line up with the Packers in a few years. Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
If we're going back all time, then I have no clue who made like NFC title games in like the 80s and stuff, and who was like really good team. Because I could go back to that, but I can't go back to that because I have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe the Giants or something, but my most confident answer would definitely be the Packers.
Yeah, I'll agree with Rishi here.
Locking it in?
Yes, sir.
The correct answer was the Green Bay Packers.
There you go, Rishi.
A very close second was the Dallas Cowboys due to Roger Staubach. He threw 13 interceptions in the NFC Championship games. But Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers had him blown away at a combined 28 interceptions in NFC Championship games. So,
wow.
Yes.
You got to make it to the game to throw that many interceptions, so they still get some props. But I'll always pray on the Packers' downfall.
4 for 5. The third question got you, gentlemen. Next week could be some Super Bowl. We might go NBA. I don't know. It is up in arms right now. Maybe we're
Hit
gonna
me
do
with some NBA deep cuts. I want the role players, everything.
NBA 6-man awards from 1990 to 2000. Well, that was a good ball. I didn't know if anyone at home answered. Nobody at home answered. Tough. They're getting ready to win one day. But we are now on to my stolen segment of NBA midterm, or the college basketball midterm grades. We're in the middle of the college basketball season, about halfway through league play. Almost every team's played a majority of league games. We have a lot of teams who have been surprising, but a lot of teams who have been not as good. So we're going to grade these teams. Of course, we're giving it on the letter grading system. So A+ is the best grade. F- is the worst grade. And I was gonna say F, but I feel like there is a tier of F- that people do deserve occasionally. So we are gonna give the first team. The first team is an Indiana team, the Purdue Boilermakers. I just want this to be noted. We do have to agree on the grades. So who would like to tell me what they believe the Purdue grade is, and then we can have a civil conversation about that.
So I'll start here, considering college basketball is one of my stronger suits here. Coming into the season, you obviously have Edey, but there's plenty of questions of can he play 30 plus minutes a game? Because last year, obviously, they have Trevion Williams, and they insert him in and out pretty well. And then you have a big question on you lose Eric Hunter to a grad transfer. You lose Sasha Stefanovic, great shooter. You lose most of these guards to play. You have freshman guards coming in. You really don't know who's going to start. So you have 2 freshman guards starting and Edey playing 30 plus minutes a game. And right now is the favorite for the player of the year. Number 1 team in the nation. It's an A+, and I don't think I could back down any farther than A+. 19-1. best team in the Big Ten, best team in the nation right now. Got mostly, I'd say, almost as many good wins as the teams behind them as well. Gonzaga, Duke, West Virginia at the time was a good win, so it's an A+ for Purdue for me.
I can say that for these grades as a whole, they don't necessarily reflect how I feel going into the tournament, but Purdue coming into the season was projected to be a 9 seed in the tournament. They lost a lot of key players from last year, and so to be 19-1 is pretty crazy, and I agree with the A+.
I also gave them an A+. I think they are going to be in a very limited class of the A+, gentlemen. I think they are going to be I only doing my pre-grades. I only had 3 teams that I gave an A+. So I'm going to switch up the order though, just to kind of make it a little more interesting. I'm going to actually go with their in-state rival, the Indiana Hoosiers. Where are the Indiana Hoosiers on your all's list?
I think it's tough to. I'm curious to see what letter grade you guys give them, because I think the injuries definitely play a big part into where they are right now. And they're a team where I actually feel better about them going into the tournament compared to how they've done so far. But so far, I mean, I can't imagine you go any higher than like C+, B- just because of the expectations coming into the season versus where they're at.
Yeah,
I feel a solid C. I feel giving them a C is they're right at their expectations. I mean, they're a little bit below expectations. I think that's where it's really getting me. And just grading them on this scale of like what teams we have in A's, I feel like they're a C team. They've lost they've only had 2 top 25 wins all season. Or two wins, the teams that are in the top 25 currently. So I would say that I feel that a C, or I give them like the lowest of a C-, a C+ grade, like the scraping a C+ grade.
Fair enough.
yeah. I think I give them C+ as well. I think expectations were pretty high coming in with pretty much everybody coming back except Rob. Grad transfer over to Cincinnati. But then you have a really solid recruiting class, Malik Renew coming in there, and Jalen Hood-Schifino, who's been up and down so far this year, playing a lot of point guard now with Xavier Johnson out. I think that's going to help them down the line if Xavier Johnson gets back, because Hood-Schifino will know how to play the point, how to run it, and not have to run it as much. So that's going to be good in the tournament if somebody gets in foul trouble or something like that. But some of the losses have been a little concerning. So, I mean, the injuries play a part, but C+ is fine. I put an asterisk with injuries next to it. Race has been out a few games. David Johnson out. The Minnesota game a few nights ago, Mike Woodson out with COVID, so the coaching scenario wasn't good. They squeak out a win at Minnesota, with Minnesota down to 7 scholarship players, I believe it was. So that's pretty concerning, but I believe C+ is good.
Agreed. And now on to an interesting team, a team that felt like it kind of came out of the depths of this league. Xavier, currently ranked 5th in the Ken Palm rankings for offense and 93rd for defense. I'd like to give them a good B+. I think they're a good team, a very well-rounded team that has come into their really filled in their shoes as the season's gotten further down the line. They're 13th in the nation with only 4 losses currently. So they're a team I feel is good. If you were telling me to grade them on their tournament, I'm not as confident in them in the tournament with the limited amount of tournament success that they've ever had and the player success they've had. But I think they're an interesting team so far, and they've definitely exceeded their expectations on a monumental level.
I was going to factor in the fact that it's Sean Miller's first year as a head coach. I mean, it's his second stint, but it's his first year with this group. And So they've definitely exceeded expectations based on what they were projected at the beginning of the season. So I'll give them as high as a grade as we're willing to give. I'm fine. To me, they're just as much of an A plus as any other team on this list so far this year.
I say close. My concern is the close losses. You take a loss early to Indiana, a team who was at full strength at that time. 7-point loss to Duke and a 4-point loss to Gonzaga, but also a loss by 1 point a couple games ago to DePaul. So I think they're a good team. I just don't think I'm willing to give them the A plus yet.
Yeah, I definitely will settle for whatever grade we end up giving them.
I think they have to be in the A tier. I was going to consider it to the higher side of the A minus. I think Xavier coming in really not like star power that they've had before. They usually have, one star player. They've had Trayvon Blewett in the past. They have these guys that come in, but this year they have a really solid group of guys playing together very well. First in the Big East, and the Big East is arguably second or third best conference in basketball right now. Teams are pretty solid in there. They have plenty amount of seniors, and Soleil Boom has been really good this year. Very clutch down the stretch. I think you have to give them A minus. They've already beat a good team in UConn twice. IU transfer Jerome Hunter has been coming to his own. Sean Miller's been playing him more and more. Their big guys play well. They have shooting. So I think if they don't get too high of a seed in the tournament, I think that's when Xavier struggles, when they get a higher seed. If they can stay, as much as it sounds bad to just like stay where you are, but if they are like a 4 to 6 range in the tournament, they're going to cause a lot of issues.
I agree. I think the A minus is probably a good rating for them. I gave them the B plus because I felt like they're maybe the first team that we've talked about as like a surprise team this year. So I didn't know where we were fielding them. And I had 2 other surprise teams that I thought got A grades. So I was kind of fielding them towards the lower side of that. So, but to talk about a team that has been above expectations, it is the first SEC team we will talk about, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Currently 4th in the nation, I believe, or 2nd in the nation at 17-2, have had standout performances so far this year, with only taking a loss in early December, it looks like, to Gonzaga and a loss to UConn. So 2 top 20 ranked teams, but they beat Houston when Houston was number 1. They've beat Mississippi State. They've beat Arkansas. They've beat a Kentucky team that has now stepped into their shoes a little bit, beat North Carolina, beat Michigan State. They have a lot of really good wins. Currently in KenPom, they're 16th in offense and 4th in adjusted defense. So where is Alabama at?
For me, this got to be this is the first time, I believe, ever that the basketball team has been ranked higher than the football team when the season was going on at the same time. That right there is an A plus in its own. Alabama, really good team. A plus range for Alabama. This is their best team in a long time playing basketball, if not ever. If I remember Alabama basketball, this is easily one of their best teams.
This is definitely easily one of their greatest teams ever.
It's an A plus for me. Alabama basketball is A plus.
Yeah, I mean, are they still undefeated in the SEC?
Yes, they are currently undefeated in SEC play, leading the SEC 8-0. The second closest team is Tennessee at 7-1.
So yeah, I mean, if you're the top dog in the SEC, especially, I mean, this year there are a lot of good SEC teams. So to be the top dog undefeated so far, it's tough to put them any lower than an A.
I will say their toughest stretch is to happen in the next 10 games. So they face Oklahoma this weekend in the Big 12 Challenge. Oklahoma, as we talked about a couple of days ago, last week is a tough team. You have Auburn and Tennessee back-to-back, and then you close the season out with 3 teams that we all projected to make the tournament: Arkansas, Auburn, and Texas A&M. So I think they have interesting stretches where they're going to have to play some really good basketball. And then I think the SEC tournament might honestly be a little bit of it could be their rude awakening to what happens. But I think they're a really good team. If we were grading players, I'm giving Brandon Miller an A+ composite rating because that guy has been ridiculous. But it's a good team. Interested to see how well they continue on to play, but it's a good team. And then I'm going to do this. I wanted to get all three big teams kind of out of the way. The number one team starting the year, the Houston Cougars, currently sitting at 17-2, an adjusted offense 7th in the nation, and an adjusted defense of 3rd in the nation in Ken Palm ratings. They are currently, I believe, in 3rd or 4th. Yeah, 3rd in the overall standings. They dropped 2 spots from the number 1 spot last week. Where do we think the Houston Cougars are in our grading?
Houston's another team where I'm fine giving them an A+. They're gonna be in the Big 12. Is it next year?
Yes.
And right now, I feel confident saying this year the Big 12 is the best basketball conference, and they look like they could come in next year and potentially win the Big 12. So I think Kelvin Sampson's done a really good job. Despite turnover in the past, 3-4 seasons, they've stayed relevant each of those seasons, and I think that's not easy to do in college basketball.
I think the only reason I don't give them an A+ right now is obviously the Alabama loss is it's a fine loss, and then they have a good win against Virginia. Obviously the conference deeps dives and it's not very good. So really, I think you're expecting them to pretty easily go undefeated in the conference, and they've already lost the conference game to Temple. That's the only reason I don't give an A+ to Houston. I know conference games are tough throughout because conference teams know you best because they play you more than anybody else in the nation. So I give a little lenience there. So that'd be the only reason I don't give them an A+. An A is where I lean. Houston's going to be very tough out. Obviously, like Alex said, top 10 in both offense and defense, and Ken Palm. That right there is something you look at going into the tournament as very, very good. So it's an easy A or A+ for me. I'd say lean towards A though.
I'm towards the A as well. Just on the conversation of top 25 wins, I think when you look at a team like Purdue and Alabama, they've played a lot tougher competition throughout the year. I'm just going to go through the big games that they've won: Oregon, St. Mary's, Alabama, Virginia. They've played, technically speaking, 4 ranked opponents, and the rest is their league that they just blow out of the water. So I think it's easy to say that they're a good team, but I think it's hard to say that you feel that they've played at the level of their competition or higher, like a Purdue, an Alabama, a Xavier. Those teams have punched above their weights, but they're still a good team. They are full of great players. I'd give them an A. I just feel hesitant to give them an A+ because I haven't felt that true stamp of approval that they can win a nitty-gritty top 25 game consistently. So A, fair here.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
A team who just lost last night, and a team who was very highly rated in the top 25, the UCLA Bruins. Where has UCLA been for you, gentlemen? They are currently sitting at 17-3, with their only losses coming at the hands of Illinois early in the season, Baylor, and they've lost 2 games back to back. They're 17-4. They lost to Arizona and USC in the past week.
I think this is a staple UCLA team. They always find a way to get okay wins, and they always play well to get some wins, and they can play bad and get some losses. Last night, obviously, USC lost. Boogie Ellis goes for 31 for USC and gets a big win for USC. I think this is just a staple UCLA season. They're not the greatest team, and they're not the worst team. They're not middle of the road either. They're a good, solid team. If they get hot, they can go far in the tournament like they did that one year. They played in the play-in game and won that and went all the way to the Final Four. So it's a B plus, A minus range for UCLA for me. I think this is a staple UCLA year.
Yeah, I'm good with that range for the UCLA this year. I think that the two losses they've taken recently, both those teams are good. And we'll see. I think the rest of this Pac-12 schedule for the rest of the year will tell us if UCLA is really a top national contender, or if this maybe isn't their best team ever.
I'm in the B plus to A minus. I think they're good. I think they have good wins. I will say I've struggled to believe that their offense is fantastic. They currently rank 50. They do not rank. They rank 20th in offense. So I mean they're good. They're top 5 defensive teams. So them losing 2 games back to back, getting outscored. It's tough to say that hey. It's definitely their defense's fault. It might be their offense. They might have offensive inefficiency, but I think they're a good team. The B plus to A minus, I'd probably stick at them at like a B plus, like a couple more wins that are good, or a couple of those games are flipped. I might be giving them an A minus or an A. But I am going to try and knock out the big powerhouses here real quick. Next up is Kansas. Kansas has had a rocky past couple of weeks. And it just kind of feels like it's all falling apart here. 3 losses to ranked opponents in their conference: a loss to Kansas State, a loss to TCU by 23, and then a loss a couple nights ago to Baylor, as they now face, it seems like, a very tough road to continue to keep getting wins and keep building their resume. Where do we think Kansas is?
I think despite those 3 losses in their non-conference schedule, they only had 1 loss, and that was to Tennessee, who I think could be a Final Four team this year. So I wouldn't push the panic button on Kansas this year. They've lost a lot of key guys from last year. So the fact that they're still a top team in the nation, I think, is a credit to them. But I think those 3 losses in the past 3 games probably takes them from like the A minus tier to probably lower in the B tier.
Yeah, I have them in the B minus range. I think if you say right now, then that's where I put them. But I do have worries with this Kansas team come tournament time. You have Jalen Wilson, who's playing like a National Player of the Year candidate. He's giving you most nights he's giving you 25 and 8 to 10 boards. Then it's that second option has really been struggling. Grady Dick has played well, but as a freshman, but if the other teams can actually shut him down, who else do you go to? And right now, there's not a guy on that roster.
McCullough Jr. is not playing very good. I'll be honest.
There's not a guy on the roster that you say that dude's going to beat us, and he's going to score 20, and he's going to beat us, because that's not what Kansas has. McCullers is a defensive guy. Came from Texas Tech. He's not going to get you 20. Their point guard, Harris, he's a defensive-minded point guard. He's going to throw assists. But where they're really struggling this year is that lob and post threat. They don't have a 7-foot center. Their center is 6'9". Their backup center barely plays. He doesn't give them good minutes. So Kansas is going to be an interesting team come tournament time, because if few of those guys struggle and they end up on the 2 or 3 line and they end up facing a 14 seed, I just throw this team out there right now. Oral Roberts, if they win their conference, if Oral Roberts wins and Kansas faces,
or like a New Mexico, like
Max Amos will give Kansas 30. He could give them 30, and I think that's going to be an issue for Kansas. And I could see them getting bounced in the first round, depending on what conference tournament winner they face, if they're a 3 seed somewhere in there. So that's where I'm concerned with Kansas.
Yeah, I think my thing with Kansas is, their grade is a B minus right now, but I think it could drop even further to a C. If you look at their next 4 games, you play Kentucky tomorrow. Kentucky's not been the Kentucky they are, but they're kind of trending back in that direction. You've then turn around 3 days later, play Kansas State, then like 5 days later, play Iowa State, and then 2 days after that, you play Texas. So, I mean, you need to get these wins. And I think now is that time where you kind of see if they flip that switch of we're a top team, or if they don't flip that switch, and then we're concerned that they might get bumped out just from losing. I think Jalen Wilson's great. I think, like Dallas said, you're going to have to see someone else step up, though. Someone's going to have to step up and play a bigger role for this team to continue to be successful. But speaking of Kentucky, who they face, who Kansas faces this weekend, where is Kentucky's grade at currently?
I mean, as the resident Kentucky guy, I feel like we're all interested in your takeout.
In reality, I struggle with the recency bias. I will say I think I'm probably a little more recent biased, but based on, they've won the last 4 games. That 4-game winning streak started with a game against Tennessee. I would love to be grading them in like 3 more weeks when we play Ole Miss, Florida, and Arkansas, because then I would really feel confident about my grade. They're trending in the right direction. I still give them a B-. I think there's still a lot that they need to prove. This Kansas game will probably be the biggest deciding factor for me if I believe this team can do anything in the tournament at all. I think you watch some of their early losses. This team struggled to find an identity, and now that they found their identity, I think maybe things are going to get easier and they're going to know who to play. But I think a B- right now is probably the safest thing to say for them. I comparing them to those teams that we put in the same class as them currently, like an IU, I think they're better than IU on paper, and I think they're better on IU from the eye test. But I don't know if they're like a clear tier above them. I think they're a couple steps above them.
I'm fine with that. Obviously, rough start to the year, but they've been playing better recently. I really, as a Kentucky fan, really like the way the team is coming together. The lineups Calipari is using, I like more and more that he's playing right now than earlier in the season. So that's a fine ranking for me. I'm not going to deep dive into Kentucky. That's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm good with that ranking. I don't think any of their losses are terrible this year. I mean, should have beaten.
No,
South
the Alabama
Carolina.
loss was bad. The Alabama loss,
No, yeah.
And the Alabama and Missouri are the 2 worst losses they have on their schedule currently.
I mean, getting
South Carolina
blown out by Alabama sucks. South Carolina shouldn't have beaten them, but Missouri's a good team this year. UCLA is a good team this year, and even Michigan State. We might be foreshadowing to a hot take later on in the program, but I think Michigan State has the potential to beat some good teams this year. So I don't think any of Kentucky's losses are really all that terrible, but obviously had some higher expectations coming into the season compared to where they're at right now.
Yeah. And then I kind of want to close it out with another team that was I kind of want to close this big team section out. It's the UConn Huskies. It feels like that team has fallen off a cliff. I hate saying that, but it kind of feels like it. They've lost 6 games now. They had a stretch where they were undefeated until they met Xavier. And since that stretch of Xavier, they've lost, let me count how many games. 1, 2, 3.
They've lost at least 5 of their last 6.
9 games, they've lost 6 games, or 9 games, they've lost 6. So it just feels like I don't know where to put them in such a tough Big East. Grading them wise, I still think they make the tournament because I think they prove in their league tournament that they're good. But I'm hesitant, and I think I would give them like a B based on the recency bias. Like a B is probably the safest. I mean, they could even be trending towards a B- if they continue to lose games.
Yeah, I mean, as much as the recent games are a concern, I do feel like they have a chance to at least get a win in March. If they get matched up with a team that doesn't have a ton of size, I think it'll be hard to guard them. But They're definitely a team where I watched them earlier in the season and really liked what they were doing. Haven't watched a ton of their recent games, but I'm now seeing that they've lost. What'd you say? How many out of their last 9?
6 out of 9.
Yeah, that's a rough stretch in a conference that they should probably be dominating.
Sitting in pole position, honestly. I mean, they should be sitting in pole position.
I'm fine with B. I think this team is interesting. That Xavier game, we watched some of it, I believe, two nights ago. That they played Xavier. I honestly flipped the game off when Xavier was up 18. UConn came back in that game, I believe only lost by 3 or 4. So they did come back because of one guy on their team, but I believe they don't have enough shooting around, and shooting is going to be big come March. And I understand what you say there, Rishi. If a team's not big enough, they're going to have some issues. But I think that if that team is a good 3-point shooting team, I think UConn could have some issues guarding them on the other side. The other team could slide into a 2-3 zone, make UConn beat them from the outside as well. So UConn is going to have some trouble with these smaller teams. I still think they're very good, and if they get hot, and if Sonogo starts playing better, because he really hasn't been playing that great right now, and Andre Jackson as well, they'll be fine. But B is a solid range for them right now.
I agree. So that was those were kind of my powerhouses. The only other team I would consider still in that powerhouse rating is the Gonzaga Bulldogs, who I also hate saying it, felt like they've fallen off a little bit of a cliff here. We haven't heard about them in the national media. They do hold 4 losses to 4 ranked teams other than Liberty Monmouth, or what's that team name? Loyola Marymount. They did lose a couple days ago to that team, snapped a 65-game winning streak at home. Where are we with the Bulldogs in their grades so far this year?
I think you got to give them like an A- still. They are Gonzaga. They do have good wins. As much as we dog on their conference as much, their conference is actually pretty solid this year. If you go back to one of my hot takes before, I believe I had 4 teams from this conference making it in. You have Gonzaga, you have San Francisco, you have St. Mary's, and then you have some other teams like Pepperdine, and I believe Santa Clara has actually been playing very well.
Yeah, if you look at their schedule, they've been held to some very tight games by teams in their conference. Like, these teams are pushing the number on them, it feels like.
Like I said before, conference games are no joke. These teams know how the other team plays. They know how to slow them down better than the other teams do. Just that's why conference games are so interesting and close when you think they shouldn't be. But Gonzaga, I still think they get an A- range. That last loss is really bad, but it is a conference loss. I think they can bounce back very well. They will have tough games in the conference, but they'll be fine. I think they could bounce their way back up to the 3 line. I think they have a ceiling to be a 2 in the tournament, but I think they'll get to the 3, and I think A- is good for Gonzaga.
Yeah, I think when you factor in that they were probably supposed to be a 1 seed coming into this year, can't give them like an A, just because they haven't lived up to that so far. But I'm definitely not sleeping on Gonzaga going into March.
I gave them a B- trending, a B+ trending towards an A-. I think that's where we're all kind of stuck in between. But I now want to flip it to another team in their conference, actually, who I had just above them, the St. Mary's Gales. They're currently ranked 22nd in the nation. I'm just going to fire off their losses just in case you guys haven't seen. They lost a 4-point game to Washington, lost a 4-point game to New Mexico, lost to Houston by 5, holding them to 53 points. And they did have an unfortunate loss to Colorado State, but have held 7-0 in their own conference at an 18-4 record. How do you guys feel about this team? I know Dallas I think Dallas probably opened it up. He was really a big fan of this team.
I really like this team. I think they have a run for the money against Gonzaga, winning the conference. You look at the Ken Palm rankings right now, they are actually ranked 7th in the nation in Ken Palm, 35th in offense, which is decent enough. But the defensive number, you love to see 6th best defense in the nation. They can clamp you down. They really play a good help line defense. If you haven't seen this St. Mary's team play, whenever they end up playing Gonzaga or San Francisco or those teams, I don't think they have any non-conference games left. Most teams just have conference games left. So whenever they play those Gonzaga or San Francisco, I'd highly encourage, if it's on TV, to tune in, just watch a little bit of those games, because this team is well-rounded. We saw it in the tournament last year when they pounded IU. They can do that to anybody in the nation if they play well and shoot well, because their defense is that good.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what their defensive ranking was in the nation, but if you look at their schedule, ever since their first game, they won 78-70 against Oral Roberts. No one has scored 70 points on them since then. They look like a team who are going to beat the bad teams and who are going to at least give the good teams a tough time and not let them score at will. So I think for that, I'm not sure what they were projected coming into the year, but I'd imagine we have to give them an A.
They were a top 20 team projected coming into the year.
Okay, so I'm fine giving them an A.
And now we have two surprise teams, both teams that have jumped off the page in both college football and college basketball this year. First, we're going to start out with the currently number 5th ranked Kansas State Wildcats. They are holding 17-2 record, have been nothing short of miraculous, jumped 8 spots in the past week. They do have 2 L's currently. They do hold 3 L's, one to the Butler Bulldogs very early in the season, one to TCU just recently, and then one by 4 points a couple days ago to Iowa State. Where do we feel on this Kansas State team?
I got to give them an A+.
I'm giving them an A+ too.
I have to. Nobody expected Kansas State to even compete in the Big 12. No, if I would have been looking at the Big 12, you give me Baylor, you give me Kansas, you look at Iowa State, they're usually solid. Give me those 3, and then I look down the line. Most of these teams have higher pedigree than Kansas State, so I would have probably picked some other teams like Oklahoma, who was solid, and other things over them to start the year. And Kansas State has just proven that they are a really good team, so I got to give them A+. Nobody expected them to be even close to this.
Yeah, A+ is around the board. I checked; they were picked 10th by a few people in the Big 12, which they only have 10 teams, which is a weird Big 12, Big 10, 10 teams.
Yeah, they're never on. They're never on point with the numbers. So,
but yeah, so the fact that they could probably win the Big 12, obviously a great story with I hope I don't
Keontae Johnson.
Keontae Johnson, yeah, great story, and yeah, they're a tough team.
So to bounce off that, TCU is actually another team who's been nothing short of fantastic in the same division. Do you also agree with them? They're 15-4. Do they deserve an A+ as well, or are they an A? I know they had a little rough stretch where they lost to West Virginia, Texas, and Iowa State in a span of 5 games, but they've kind of turned it around.
I'm right there in the A+ range with TCU. They have in my opinion, they have a Player of the Year candidate in Miles Jr. He's been playing just fantastic for them. He really gives them 19 points a night with 3 assists, leads the team there, shoots tremendous from the field. They get 3 guys in double digits. They don't have a really big name guy like they usually do, and somehow they're almost better than what they usually do, pretty much better than what they usually do. So this TCU team is tough, and I really like them. So it's got to be either a really high A or A+ for me.
Agreed. Rishi, you feel the same?
Yeah, knocking off Kansas and Kansas State the way they did, that's you got to give them credit.
All righty. And then we always give love to the women's basketball. It was something we missed out on last year. So I've deemed this part of the grading, I deemed it the Dallas Turner grading of women's college basketball. So Dallas, I'm going to give you the teams. Rishi, if you'd like to join in too, you can feel free to. I absolutely know nothing, so I am just looking at their rankings currently. But Dallas was in attendance last night for a women's game too. So I'm just saying, my man's out here. He's got the scouting locked up. So, of course, the number one, the front runner of every year, Dallas, the South Carolina Gamecocks. What do you think they are this year?
Nashville tournament title contender, just 20-0, just pounding everybody in the SEC. It's an A+ grade for them. Obviously, me personally, I think they are beatable, but they're so hard to beat. They're just bigger than everybody else. And on the women's side, you think, oh, a team can outshoot them. I'll do this, I'll do that. But their bigs and other guards can guard like crazy. They're really good on the defensive end. One of the top teams in the nation defensive wise as well. And they're so hard to guard on the offensive boards. They get more offensive boards than anybody in the nation. So it's an easy A+ for them. I don't even say it's not a hot take for them to win the national championship. You'll easily see them in the Final Four because they're going to get a 1 seed and just pound away. I think they'll finally get a tough game in the Elite Eight, but they're definitely going to be in the Final Four.
Rishi, got anything to contribute here?
No, my knowledge of college basketball on the women's side is largely on the player side, not necessarily. Between NBA and college basketball, I run out of time to watch games, but just looking at the rankings, yeah, like a lot of these teams we have coming up are teams that have either met their expectations or exceeded them. So yeah, I'll agree with Dallas's take for sure.
All righty, Dallas, a team you just watched lose last night, the Ohio State women Buckeyes. Where do you think they are graded this year?
So before this 2-game stretch, I'd say you give them A+. Just a little recency bias. You have to give them A. They're missing arguably their best player in JC Sheldon right now. She should be coming back in a few weeks. That is going to be huge for them to get another ball handler and shooter, because last night they really struggled to shoot the basketball when I was at the game. Taylor Mikesell is their shooter. You can really focus in and clamp her up if you have a girl face guarding her. Chloe Moore McNeil on IU was doing that last night. Really made it tough for Mikesell. Ohio State is still a really good team. They have a really good freshman. She had 21 last night. Their big was in foul trouble most of the game last night. I think you give them an A. They had the best start in program history at 19-0. You lose to Iowa and Indiana, 2 top 10 teams. So it's an A for Ohio State.
All righty. A team that is actually giving a run for the money of the South Carolina Gamecocks is currently the LSU Lady Tigers. They are sitting at a whopping 20-0 as well, and undefeated in conference play so far. These teams have not squared off yet, but if you're looking for something it's on Super Bowl Sunday. If you need a little warm up to the absolute banger we'll probably get for a Super Bowl, you got South Carolina playing the LSU Tigers, number 1 team, and probably a very close number 4 or 5 team. It's gonna be a heavyweight battle. Dallas, where do you think the LSU Lady Tigers are at the moment?
So I hate to do this for most of these women's teams, but they're definitely getting an A for me. You look at their stats and other things that they played. Their first 5 games, I know they're not playing anybody the first 5 games, but it's still impressive when you put up 100 points in their first 5 games. They put up over 100. I don't care who it's against in women's college basketball. That's impressive to do. You look at some of these other wins down here, they really haven't been tested too much yet. So I think their next game in 3 days against Tennessee, that is a test. And then obviously South Carolina. I think the SEC and the women's side is not that great. But you look at one player on their team, and my personal pick for player of the year right now is Angel Reese. She's averaging 24 points, 15 boards, 2 steals, and a block and a half a game.
And she's almost shooting 50. She's almost shooting 60% from the field.
Yeah, if you don't call that the player of the year right now, or at least a contender in the top 2 or 3, then I don't know what to say. She's just been dominant. She's given the keys coming over from Maryland. LSU, very good.
All righty. We got one. I got a couple more teams here. We're now kind of getting into the regional teams. Of course, we have the Iowa Lady Hawkeyes. They have been a hot topic of college basketball for the past few years. Where do you have them at, Dallas?
I have them at A- right now. I think a few of their losses have been not that great. You look, obviously, they take an L to UConn, NC State team who has been struggling. You take an L there, an L to Illinois as well. So those games, and it lost to Kansas State as well. So those some tough losses in there, but you got to remember they have another Player of the Year candidate. And I don't care who's watching. Probably one of the highlights of college basketball. I personally love to watch Caitlin Clark play. You look at the last game, Ohio State, just 28 points, 15 dimes, 10 boards, triple-double against number 2 Ohio State. She's just incredible. And she didn't even shoot that well, 8 out of 19. Imagine if she shot well, she could have had 35-plus, triple-double with 15 dimes. That's just unheard of. It's insane what she does. Tune in to watch Iowa if you have them.
All righty. And then to close out, we have 3 last teams here. UConn has always been the powerhouse of women's college basketball. They've seemingly struggled the past few years. Currently, they're sitting at 17-2 in the 5th seed. Where do you think they are graded at, Dallas?
Give me an A for UConn. This team is just UConn's really good, man. Obviously, Paige Becker's being out for the year hurts bad. But when you have AZ Fudd, who's played 9 games and is your best player, she's averaging 18 points in those 9 games. She's missed games. Dorka Juhas has missed games. Caroline Ducharme has missed games. I mean, you look down the list, almost everybody on their team besides 2 players has missed multiple games. And they still have 5 players averaging double digits. They have the nation's leading assist girl in Nika Mule. She's averaging 9 assists a game. She orchestrates the whole offense. They shoot 52% as a team, 40% from 3. They shoot very well. They take great shots. Gino Orwim is a great coach. This team is going to be really, really hard to beat, especially when they get healthy.
All righty. And the team you watched last night, the IU Lady Hoosiers, have now climbed to, I believe, 18-1. Where do you have them graded?
This is A+ for me. I've enjoyed watching IU these last few years as they've really rejuvenated. Terry Morin, now the all-time leading wins coach at IU on the women's side. And you look back at their teams they've had the last few years, they went to the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16. But I'd argue that this team right now is better than any of those teams the past 2 or 3 years. They have so much depth. This team, last night, you look at they were down early to Ohio State. Everything was going Ohio State's way. Down by 4 at half. You really thought coming out of half, Ohio State just needed a little bit of momentum just to really edge out that 10-point lead and really put the game away. But what does IU do? Down by 4 at half, outscores Ohio State, number 2 team in the nation, by 21 in the 3rd quarter, led by Yarden Garzone, who's a freshman. She played fantastic. She had 20. Obviously, your leader, Mackenzie Holmes, averaging 22 and 8 on the season. They have 4 girls over double digits, and then they have 2 at 9.2 a game. This team plays defense. They can shoot. There's no weakness in this team. So this team is going to be very, very hard to beat.
All righty. And then to close out with one last Indiana team, the Ball State Lady Cardinals. You said to add them today. Where do you grade them?
If I remember correctly, I really haven't looked this up yet, but they are projected to be a 13 seed in the tournament right now because they are projected to win their conference. So if I look at bracketology on the women's side, and I click on Ball State here. They are 16-4, first in the MAC. They're a solid all around team. I mean, you have almost 4 in double digits leading the way. You have Allie Becky. She's from Brownsburg in her sophomore year. She averages 12, 6, and 5. Maddie Bischoff as well, coming into her own, averaging 10 a game. This team is very interesting, and they almost have a feel to our IUPUI Jaguars did last year when they won their Horizon lead and made the tournament, gave Oklahoma a run for their money in the first round. This is what this team reminds me of with IUPUI last year. And if they get matched up against a 4 seed like that, they could very well make it a game and win a tournament game.
All righty. Well, that is all for the grading. And now it is on. I know everybody's been hearing about it. We've all been talking about it, the all-star team voting, blah, blah, blah. It's garbage. So today we've completely taken the recency the biases out that the NBA holds upon their all-star voting. And we are building the SMC all-star team. These are the players we believe should be starting on the bench, and then we're going to give 2 honorable mentions for each team. So first, we're going to start in the East. We are going to actually do this consensus because I do not want to write down 5 guys for each position. So who is the East all-star starting point guard, gentlemen?
So before we do this, I just want to ask: are we just doing like they do and just have 2 guards and 3 forwards, or are we actually picking the position? Because
Let's do that.
Things.
I built a bench of a starting 5 mimicked, and then the honorable mentions. So I think those are players that there's like a 3 deep role, like a small forward or like a power forward that we believe 3 guys should be in. So then we'll just do it like that. So we can build the starting 5, then go through the bench, and then do it the same way for the West.
I say it's probably a lot easier to just define it as guards in front court, because then whether you do it either way, then it works. If you do a point guard and shooting guard, then they're both guards. And if you do one for each position, then it'll still work either way. And because I just picked it by front court and back court. So whatever. We'll figure it out. I can tell you my 2 guards for the East. For me, it was a three horse race, but I'm going with Kyrie and Donovan Mitchell. I think the argument against Kyrie is Jaylen Brown obviously has been playing really well, and he's played more games than Kyrie. But I don't know. I also was factoring in the fact that Kyrie Irving is going to get a lot more votes than Jaylen Brown in the national vote.
Okay, my 2 guards in the East are Donovan Mitchell and Jaylen Brown. I think just the reasons Rishi shed on Jaylen Brown, he's putting up actually better numbers than Kyrie, and he's on the winningest team in basketball, and that adds something to do with it. Usually in the All-Star game, winning team in basketball gets the most All-Stars, and I see no reason why Jaylen Brown and Tatum shouldn't start together.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to pick the starting point guard that you guys pick, so this is going to be fun. I picked Trae Young. Trae Young is averaging just below Kyrie by 0.1 points, but providing more in the way of averaging a double-double, so 9 assists, 3 or 4 rebounds a game, and a couple steals, or about 0.9 steals. So I think he's good. I think he's kind of been unfortunately shot under the radar based on the fact that the Hawks have been very lackluster this year, but I would put him and Donovan Mitchell as my starting point guard and shooting guard. So
Donovan Mitchell's unanimous. So who are we picking? Are we picking Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, or Trae Young? I'll go Jaylen Brown.
I'll give Jaylen Brown the starting job, but I think I'm gonna give Kyrie probably our bench point guard. I feel that's only fair if we snub him of starting. Then do you guys want to pick a backup shooting guard? I think we all are going to agree on the same person here. Personally, it is for me, Tyrese Halliburton has been absolutely nothing short of fantastic. And if he does not make an all-star team bench, he leads the league in assists while also providing a scoring output. He's been hurt and still leads the league in assists. So I feel like he's been a no-brainer this year. You can argue DeMar DeRozan. I think the Bulls are garbage, so I don't get. I mean, he's good on a garbage team. I feel like he's probably the best player. Halliburton is. So consensus on Halliburton.
Yeah,
I've got Halliburton as a lock for the All-Star game, even if he's not a starter. I think he's a lock.
All right, and now we're gonna do the front court here. Do we all agree on Jason Tatum?
Yeah, I've got
starting small forward. I think the power forward conversation is an interesting one. We all do know that. I mean, do we all agree who power forward and the center are?
Well, I guess it depends on how you define it. Because really, for me, I had Giannis, KD, Tatum, and Joel competing for the last 3 starters. So I don't know what
I have as Giannis and Joel, because Joel's been. I mean, he's balling, man.
No KD.
KD makes the bench. I don't think KD starts. I don't know. That's just my own personal opinion. I mean, KD's played more games than Joel, so I mean his stats might be inflated, but they did just win on a head-to-head matchup. So I mean, just saying.
it just depends on how you define it and everything. But my 3 front court I had was the 3 that NBA picked last night, and Tatum, Durant, and Giannis. But a lot of people saying, I saw a lot of things on Twitter saying, why is Embiid not a starter? He's averaging 33 a game, blah, blah, blah. I just think it's very hard. It's very hard to pick 3 out of these 4 guys. Usually we're not in this scenario, but where all 4 guys are playing amazing basketball right now. But I think give me Tatum, Durant, and Giannis.
I'll agree with that. I'll take it into consideration. Now we do have the tough conversation of who is the small forward and the power forward that will be our bench players. Who do you guys believe has been ripping the East apart at those positions?
I think the players that will probably get the nod are players like Jimmy Butler and Pascal Siakam. But for the East, I'm more excited to talk about our honorable mentions. So I'll save some players for that section.
I'm in agreement on Siakam. The small forward position to me is very hard. I could also see moving Siakam to the 3 and putting a guy like Julius Randle at the 4. He's been playing very high at a high level in the All-Star. These last few spots on the bench are definitely tough. So I lean Siakam and Randle over Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I'm going Randle over Butler. I'm sorry. I'm not a big Jimmy Butler guy. Just
wait, while we're at it, can I just pitch a couple of my honorable mention guys to see if you want to take them over either Pascal or Julius Randle?
Yeah, I'm not a big Pascal guy. I'm gonna be honest. So let's pitch them to me.
All right, first one. Paolo Banchero. I feel like he came in. He's the number 1 guy on a team. Obviously, they're not doing so hot right now, but I think he definitely deserves at least consideration to be on this All-Star team.
I think. Am I crazy for saying I would like to see Paolo be on our bench?
I mean,
he's doing this all as a rookie.
On the SMC team.
I mean, that's my point here. Like we don't have to pick what the NBA is picking. We can pick against the grain here. So I'm okay with Paolo being on the bench. That's okay by me.
If you want to do that, that's fine. I see if we have 3 spots left. I don't know how you guys are in agreement. I think Trae Young and Siakam have to take 2 spots out of these last 3 as All-Stars. When you look at the East, I really don't see anybody else that jumps to the page.
DG, Darius Garland.
Yeah, I think Darius Garland, unfortunately, just suffers from the fact that there are a decent amount of East guards that are in this conversation. Like, I don't know if you can put Darius Garland over Tyrese Halliburton. I don't know if you can put him over Trae Young. But he definitely deserves to be in the conversation.
So do we want to fill Siakam out at the small forward here?
I'm good with that. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. Maybe not the most. Actually, if we're picking all-star teams, Pascal Siakam is not the most fun guy to put into an all-star game. So do we want to just put someone else in there?
I mean, my more exciting pick would be Ant.
Yeah, I love Anthony. Well, he's in the West, but
Yeah, he's in the West.
Oh shit, sorry. Excuse my language. Sorry. DeMar DeRozan then? Like,
who do we have as a solidified bench spot so far?
Kyrie, Halliburton, Paolo, Embiid. So we're missing the small forward. I think this is a 2-horse race. I think DeMar, like I said, is a great player, fantastic. But I'm also leaning towards a Kyle Kuzma nod. My man's out here dropping 22, 7 and 3. So, I mean,
yeah, I think if the Wizards had a few more wins, people would probably be talking about Kuzma like a little bit more in the All-Star conversation. He was a guy who the year before he got drafted, he wasn't even on the NBA's radar. So now to be putting up those numbers in the NBA is extremely impressive. But what are your thoughts on the final guy for our bench, Dallas?
For me, it's tough. I lean more to Siakam. I think he's a very good player in this league. You look at the averages; he's averaging 25, 8, and 6. I mean, that's all-star numbers to me on Toronto. They really don't have much else this season. He's leading the way for them. I think he's most definitely deserving of the all-star spot this year.
All right.
And an interesting trade piece at the deadline. Do the Raptors blow up or not?
I don't think anyone's got the assets to give up for a guy like Pascal, but I think you're right. That's an interesting team to watch at the end of the deadline.
All right. And then now on to the honorable mentions. I think we had an agreement on Icy Trey making the team. But now we have one last honorable mention spot. And who's deserving of this? Who has been that guy this season that we all want to see play?
Can I throw out some names?
Yes.
So if we don't have Darius Garland, he's got to be in the conversation. He may even be the front runner for this last honorable mention spot.
Should we split the the honorable mention spot into like a guard and a front court guy?
That's good with me.
All right.
For guards, I then have two guys I want to shout out. Darius Garland, and then I think we have to give some credit to Jalen Brunson. He got a huge deal from the Knicks. I think a lot of people might have looked at that deal and said, hey, in 2 years, we might be looking at Jalen Brunson and saying he got overpaid. And he's playing up to that contract in a market like New York, where if you're playing in New York and you're not playing well, it's tough to come back from that. And he's been playing really well. So those are the two guys I put into the conversation.
There's another guy I'd like to add to the guard conversation, and he deserves more love than he usually gets, and should be a favorite for Defensive Player of the Year as well, and that's Drew Holiday. Giannis has been out plenty of games this year, and Drew Holiday's taken over the load without Middleton. 19.5 points a game, over 7 assists, and like I said, unbelievable on the defensive end of the floor. So I think that's another guy in consideration, especially in the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, you could make an argument that he needs to be on the reserves and not even the honorable mentions. So I think that's a good call.
And there's a guy we haven't talked about yet on here that is very interesting, and that is James Harden. We have not talked about James Harden. He's averaging 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 11 assists a game. If I do believe I think he might have took over Halliburton in the assist category. Let me take a look real quick. I believe 11. He's not qualified. He's not qualified because he hasn't played enough games.
I'm good with I'm just naming our honorable mentions, by the way, because I think these are just guys that feel like all these guys should just be there because they're so good.
I think, yeah, it's probably a race between Drew Holiday, maybe Darius Garland and sorry, who did we just say?
Harden.
James Harden. Yeah, James. Guard wise, those are probably for me the top three choices out of the remaining guys.
I'm just gonna write down all our honorable mentions because I feel like these guys need to be shown some love every once in a while, you know. The honorable mention for the front court, I have one that I'm a big fan of. Franz Wagner at Orlando has been tearing it up. 20.2 a game, 5 boards, a couple assists. It's nothing amazing, but like he's just being such a crucial part of this team that we thought was going to be so bad. So I'm really a big Franz Wagner guy this year. So
Yeah,
For me,
that's
I
a
have
good-
I have a few guys in mind. Obviously, I go back to Julius Randle. He's playing at an all-star level. I think he needs to be in the discussion. And then I go to the Miami Heat and say Bam Adebayo as well.
Yeah, I think there's a couple Heat guys you could put on that list, like Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. But yeah, I think Julius Randle might be. I'll put Bam Adebayo over Julius Randle in the honorable mention category. And then one more guy I feel like we should just mention because when you consider the expectations coming into the year versus how they played, Nick Claxton has been pretty nothing short of incredible on the defensive end this year. And a big reason why the Nets have a chance to make some noise in the East this year.
I think Brooke Lopez probably also gets one just based on how ridiculous he's playing too. Like, talk about load management, load carrying. Him and Jrue Holiday have been such a crucial piece of that team when Giannis sits games. So I think that solidifies our East. Like I said, we're not gonna pick who needs to be the honorable mention. We're just gonna name some guys, just give them their love, you know, give them their roses. But now on to the West. I feel like the West is a tough conversation to have, guys. Who is the starting point guard?
So if you look at the actual voting, every year that Steph Curry is in the league, he will be an all-star starter. But if you look at the games played, I've got 3 guys for starting guards in the West. It's Steph, Ja, and Luka. Steph's played 33 games, Ja's played 40, and Luka's played 45. And if I'm being honest, if we're picking an SMC team, I'd take Ja and Luka as the 2 starters, and Steph is kind of in the same position as Joel, where he's like the defunct 6th man for the West. But yeah, every year that Steph's playing, he's in reality going to be a starter. But I'll take Ja and Luka.
I'm in agreement with John Luka.
Easily for me, John Luka as well.
Okay, so we're gonna do the guard bench. I'm going to be honest with both of you. I don't even have Steph in the team. Looking at the guard position, I think Shea has been nothing short of amazing this year. Currently 5th in overall scoring at 35 points a game. He's been amazing. I think Lillard's also been, he's kind of close in the games played with Steph, but I think Lillard's been pretty impressive too. I think Shea has to be on this team no matter what. I think it'd be a crime and shame not to add SGA on this team.
Yeah, I mean, the Steph snub is pretty bold, but he's missed some time this year. I think Shea's the one out of everyone else in the West that are guards. He's the one guy that I would say is a lock. And the other 2 names I want to throw out there are De'Aaron Fox. The Kings have been awesome this year, and then Damian Lillard.
Oh, Damian, I forgot about
The West guards is so tough. I forget how they do reserves in the actual NBA, but I could see Ja, Luka, or Curry and Luka starting, Ja, SGA, and another guard off the bench as well. I see them getting 3 guards in there. It's tough for sure. The guard position is so heavy this year. I'm in agreement though with, I think Curry and SGA, all their guards off the bench, are probably the choices here.
All right, then SGA is going to be the shooting guard and Curry is going to be the point guard because I think SGA has more height than Curry. So Okay. Now on to the starting front court. I feel like this is an interesting conversation that we all must have here.
Anyone have any
Who's-
locks that they'd like to throw out?
Jokic is the lock at center.
I agree.
Easily.
Jokic has to be at center. I honestly want to snub Braun. I'm going to be honest with you all. I think Braun deserves a bench role.
That's the
just
worst
based
take
on
on this show.
just
He's
based
been-
on the fact of how the Lakers have played. I mean, I get it. He's going mental, but like, it's tough to say. I'm a big Lauri Markkanen fan this year. I think Lauri's just been nothing short of amazing, and he's exciting to watch. And we've watched LeBron play for a really long time, so I just want to throw some more interesting guys in this conversation.
I love Lauri Markkanen this year. He's a guy that no one would have expected to elevate to an all-star level of play. But I promise you, if you polled every person that's watched a basketball game this year, you might get a 99% vote towards LeBron over Lauri Markkanen.
Well, I'm not saying that I don't think LeBron will make it in, because now I'm looking at small forward and I'm like, oh, I'm looking at power forward and it's kind of like a middling. Like, so if you put Lauri in there, then you put Braun next to him at small forward. But I mean, like, that's just my personal opinion. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you all. I'm not a Braun guy. Like, I'm just not a Braun guy. Like, I get it. He's great. He helps the Lakers so much, but like, give me anybody else but Braun, because I just want to see a more interesting game.
Yeah, I'm not a LeBron guy either, but you have to put him in there at the 3. And then at the 4, I think it's between two guys starting. I think Markkanen definitely gets a nod off the bench, but I think you either put, like the NBA did, they have Zion as the NBA starter right now. You either have Zion or you have Sabonis in there.
Yeah,
at the
I'm giving it to
startings.
Sabonis.
They both
Sabonis
have
has played 45 games. I mean,
they both have played tremendous this year. Sabonis has just played more games. That's who I lean towards. And he's averaging, I believe, 19, 12, and 7. That's ridiculous.
Sabonis is actually at 18.4.
Exactly. Ridiculous numbers on the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. I think we should give the nod to Sabonis at the 4.
Yeah, I was gonna vote for Domas, but I thought of this a couple seconds ago. If you're talking about an all-star game, Zion is definitely the more fun guy to have in that game. But for our team, I'm perfectly fine saying Domantas Sabonis.
Okay. So now we're down to the bench bigs here. I think Zion's probably getting our power forward nod, correct? If we're snubbing him. Is Lauri Markkanen getting the nod for the 3?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Center. I don't know many. The West centers are hard after you look at my guy Jokic out there. It's tough
Nas
sled.
Reed in there. Nas Reed, anyone?
Nas Reed has been playing unbelievable for Minnesota this year.
Yeah,
like
He's
Sengun.
another interesting piece at the deadline. I think contenders should really gather up some picks and a package and trade for that guy.
Oh man,
Sengun?
he would be so good with the Celtics. But that's a conversation for another day.
I'm a big Sengun guy here. I'm not gonna lie. I think he's doing a lot for the Rockets.
I love Alfred Şengün.
He's just so much fun to watch, dude. He's just so
team.
much fun to watch. I'm sorry.
He's not going to be on the All-Star team, but he's definitely one of my favorite centers in the West.
Nurkic is a very, very interesting topic. I think he's been playing out of his mind a little bit. But I mean, I like Nas Reed. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's a good take.
I mean, so here's the thing. I've got a few wings that are definitely more all-star caliber than any of the centers we've named. Like Brandon Ingram needs to get his credit. And even Paul George deserves some credit. So I don't know if you guys want to pick a center for the sake of having a center. But
I'm changing it. I'm giving it a utility. It's getting a utility.
I don't know if Nas Reed can squeak in over Brandon Ingram or not.
Well, Brandon Ingram's only played 16 games this year.
I know, but when he's played, there's a reason the Pelicans are going to be in the playoffs this year. And without Brandon Ingram, they're probably not the same team.
Yeah,
I got to give BI. I'm a big BI guy. I'm sorry.
But if we want to pick someone over him, yeah, him playing only 16 games is a reason to keep him out.
yeah, I think you got to look at definitely look at PG. It's just an interesting spot in the West. There's not many guys out here that's played, in every game. It's been really, really good.
I mean, any Jaren Jackson love, Desmond Bain, any love for those guys?
I really do like Desmond Bain. He's been hurt. I think he's probably put in over him at this stage. Let me see how many games he's actually missed here, because this is tough. He's only played in 28 games, but averaging 22, 5 and 4 is very good on the second seed in the Western Conference. I could see it as well.
Yeah. But PG to fill out that utility spot is what we're going to call it instead of a center.
I'm fine with it. Yeah.
All right. And then I'm going to give my honorable mention guards. I've been talking about giving flowers to people because they're just absolute hoopers. There's a few guys that I really believe are so exciting that I would love to see play. Anthony Simons just deserves. Yeah, if he's not in I think he's too young. He's too old to be in the like all world game, because he's just so much fun to watch. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm giving him that, and then De'Aaron Fox honestly deserves one. This is probably like the best I've ever seen De'Aaron Fox play since he's been at Kentucky. And they're using him well, and he's playing well, and he's being a system fitter. So I think Fox deserves one too.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox, another guy that a couple of years ago you might have wondered what his future in the NBA was going to look like, and now it's looking like he could be a guy who in the All-Star conversation for years to come.
For me, a few guys, Desmond Bain is obviously one. Ant is obviously one. But there's another sneaky guy in here that I really like that deserves a little bit of credit, and that's Spencer Dinwiddie for the Mavericks. You look last night, Luka goes out with a sprained ankle in the first quarter, and what does Dinwiddie do? All he does is drop 36 points and 9 assists, and they win. So this guy is a very valuable part to this team. Without Luka for a few games, he's going to be put in a primary scoring role. I think you'll probably see him averaging probably close to 30 a game in these few games. Obviously 36 last night. I think he's going to have to if they really want to win. So that's a guy to just keep your eye on for props and honorable mention.
Yeah, as long as we're giving out flowers, like we got to mention a guy like Jordan Clarkson. He's been putting the ball in the basket this year. But a name I realized we never talked about in the segment was Anthony Davis. Just feel like want to get your guys' opinion on Anthony Davis this year.
We've talked about not playing enough games, and I think that's just what it comes down to.
I'm looking it up.
He's hurt so much. He's played in 26 games, I guess more than you actually think. I could honestly see the NBA putting this guy in the All-Star game. As bad as it sounds, they probably will put him in as a reserve. I hope the coaches get together, because the coaches decide the reserves and really decide not to, just because the game's played, and give some other guys a chance in the All-Star game. But I think they end up probably picking Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I feel the same. Have we finished up with the guards here? Do we feel confident about the guards?
Who are our guards?
We had Simons, Fox, Bain, Ant, Dinwiddie, and Jordan Clarkson.
Is Dame in our reserve?
Oh shoot, I didn't even think about that.
If not, he might be the number one guy on that honorable mention list.
Yeah. I went to Anthony Simons before Dame. Sorry.
No, Anthony Simons is a very fun player to watch.
So now we've finished the guard, I believe, and I'm going to give you my 3 front court guys that I have been in love with this year. It starts out with Keldon Johnson. I feel like if you talk about that Spurs team, a lot of their success is put around Keldon Johnson. Christian Wood's been a massive piece for the Mavericks. And then the guy that I tried to convince everyone should be our starting center, Sengun. Just a fun guy to watch. I kind of just love watching the Rockets just to see him and Jalen Green be together. He's really
you
dynamic.
like watching the Rockets?
I like watching him play a little bit more. He's also a beast in 2K My Association. My man, me and Dallas had him and Chet together for 2 years, and we won the chip in the first year of having him.
Another guy I want to give credit to is Jakob Pertl, but after looking at this year's numbers, actually, Şengün's putting up a little bit more points per game and maybe even rebounds.
I'm telling you, I think Jonas Valanciunas probably also deserves one.
And I'd say Ayton as well, because the Suns they've been disappointing this year, but with Paul and Booker out, he's averaging a double-double this year. He's kept them in contention. They're in the 7th spot in the West. If the Suns get healthy, they can definitely push in the playoffs, but it's going to be tough for them to do. Jay Crowder is really holding them right now. They need to really find a trade. I think they should have already did that. They probably get less value for him now than what they would have at the start of the year. So I think Ayton deserves an honorable mention slot.
Does Aaron Gordon deserve one?
If you heard what he said if he's in the All-Star game, then he's in the dunk contest. So sure, let's put him in the All-Star game. That'll be fun. But also, I was going to mention Steven Adams as another guy in that center tier with Pirtle and Şengün, but a guy that we completely missed that probably has an argument to be an all-star is Christian Wood of the Dallas Mavericks.
I said him.
Oh, you did? I missed it then.
Yeah, he was in my Keldon Johnson, Sengun, and Christian Wood. I thought they were all three really good players. I said they're all really fun to watch, and I enjoyed them. So
yes. There we go. Now we got to dwindle it down.
We got a deep list here. No matter how much I like Jakob Poeltl, I feel like Ayton and Şengün might just be a little bit better than Steven Adams and Poeltl. I know they play massive roles on their teams as centers, but I think it's tough. But going back to the AD conversation, I love AD, but I don't think he deserves a all-star position this year. You can't play 16 games and get put in the all-star game just because you're a tier 1 superstar for us.
He's played a little bit. He's played 26, but yeah, it's same argument.
Yeah, same argument. I think you look at it, Keldon Johnson's probably the best small forward that doesn't get love in the NBA. I mean, other than Jeremy Grant, I think that's probably those two are two of the ones I'm looking at. Mikal Bridges has been great, but I think maybe Norman Powell. I don't even know who this guy is, but this guy's got dropping 16 points a game. Man's out here hooping. He was a late pick too. Geez, 46. I just think it's tough to go against Keldon. Keldon's literally a top 5 scorer at power forward, and is really good for a Spurs team that is not horrible. I think they're not horrible, right?
The Spurs?
Yeah,
they're not like bad. Here.
They're pretty bad.
They're improving. Okay, they're actually on a game-to-game basis. Like they're not uncompetitive.
Okay, they're 1-9 in their last 10. They're bad. Okay,
but they're bad. Oh, in the grand
Josh
scheme
Giddey. Does Josh Giddey deserve some flowers from us?
I think he's a guy who in future years we could be talking about in terms of the
think he's
game,
like
he does everything.
I think he is a futures game. I feel like he's a futures game lock, but I feel pretty confident about where we are. This is our all-star team. I'm just going to say, I think we pick better than the NBA. We have, I feel like, a more exciting game. Because who doesn't want to see Jokic versus Embiid, or Jokic versus Giannis, Durant versus Sabonis, Braun versus Tatum, Luka versus Donovan Mitchell, Morant versus Jaylen Brown. I just want to see if Morant throws a windmill dunk, honestly. Also, can we petition for the NBA to actually put skills players in the skills challenges? I want to see Morant, Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine. I want to see all these high flyers do the dunk contest. No more of these mid-tier scrubs that are getting in because the other players are worried about hurting themselves.
I don't know what the solution is. Maybe we need to have the dunk contest be like a $5 million contest or something.
That's what I said. I said put a mill on the dunk contest and put $500K on the 3-point contest, and I bet you all those guys will be running for it.
Yeah, I mean, imagine
Like
having Zion.
FanDuel should
and
do
John Morant.
something. FanDuel should put some money down, be like points bet. I don't know who's the NBA's betting partner, but throw some money at them. Let's see what they do.
Because in the 3-point contest this year, you'll probably be seeing guys you probably never heard of.
Buddy
Hield. Give him an invite. He said he was going. Isaiah Joe from Oklahoma City will be in the 3-point contest.
Buddy Hield deserves to be in the 3-point contest. I can't even lie.
Let's not disrespect Isaiah Joe. He'll put up a good performance in the 3-point.
No disrespect. Contest. I think he's a sleeper candidate to win the thing. Honestly,
let's look at 3-point. Let's look at 3-point.
But your point is true. We could be seeing some bigger names in these skill competitions.
Luke Kennard.
He's maybe a former champion of the 3-point contest. I'll check.
Okay, Isaiah Joe, Seth Curry, Alec Burks, shooting 44% from 3. Maybe
I think you see Damian Lee in the 3-point contest.
Keegan Murray. I feel like Keegan Murray would be a fun.
I definitely do see a rookie doing the 3-point contest.
Al Horford shooting 42% right now.
On how many attempts?
3-pointers attempted 7.2
per game.
Average. Yes.
Okay.
No, he averages 4.8 3 balls a game. Attempted.
Oh wait, that's Lauri Markkanen. Just kidding. Sorry,
okay.
totally wrong. But literally think about this. Norman Powell, he's averaging more 3-pointers attempted than he's close to Keegan Murray. He's close to is it Jeremiah Grant or is it Jeremy?
Jeremy.
Or Jeremy Grant. I mean, he's close to these guys. Georges Niang, the guys that we call the flamethrowers. Kevon Herter is shooting 7. I think he'd be fun to watch in there too.
He should probably be in the 3-point contest this year.
I think you see a guy like either Corey Kispert or Devin Vassell in there.
Devin Vassell deserves it over Corey Kispert.
We said a rookie. If it's not Keegan Murray, AJ Griffin deserves to be in there. And obviously there'll probably be some a big name or two that actually do it, but
DiVincenzo, maybe?
I mean, you can see some different names in it. Monte Morris is shooting 40% from 3. There's these guys that's shooting well that deserve to be in there, but obviously there's a lot of guys. And
Doug McBuckets definitely deserves one. My man's shooting 41%.
While we're talking about ways to improve All-Star Weekend, I almost think it would be more entertaining to watch a 3-point contest for the lowest 3-point shooting percentage players.
Oh my God!
Rather than the highest.
That would be one of the highlights. Has to be Draymond Green versus Kevin Hart at the 3-point contest when they did that. That is very good. If you want to throw some trash 3-point shooters in there that are qualified, you throw in a LeBron James. This guy's
Russell Westbrook
from 3. These guys shoot really bad.
Jalen Noel.
And then you could still.
The crazy part is there's actually good shooters down here that are shooting very bad this year, like a Trae Young, like a Malik Monk. These guys are shooting really bad from 3. Jordan Poole. These guys are.
That's a volume thing, though. That's a volume thing.
I'd really love to see either.
I think you have to be below 5 3-pointers attempted in a game and below 35% to be put in the game. So I'd like to see Killian Hayes, Gabe Vincent.
I'd even take it one step farther. I'd just like it to be all centers.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I was imagining.
Just throw all centers in there. Steven Adams, get these guys in there and just don't shoot and just have them.
Valanciunas.
Yeah, guys that probably don't even practice 3-pointers that often. I'd love to see that.
Like there's so many guys because only 6 centers are actually qualified in the list right now. So you take everybody else that's not qualified.
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting.
All righty. Well, we've given the NBA plenty of ideas on how they need to improve their systems. They're going to turn to the NFL. We're just going to see flag football.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Maybe they should switch sports. Maybe the NBA should do football and the NFL should do basketball.
That would be awesome, dude. Imagine like offensive linemen playing hockey. That'd be crazy.
Okay, that might be a little far. But all right, on to hot takes. We're gonna go through last week's. I had Danny Dimes, 2 passing touchdowns, 200 passing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 75 rushing yards. Brock Purdy dropping 2+ touchdowns, 300 yards. Did not happen. Rishi had both Brazilians winning in the title fight, the Giants winning straight up, and San Francisco winning by 3 touchdowns. That drops his record to 1-11.
You did not
Dallas
have to say the record.
T. Higgins for Dallas had 100 all-purpose yards, 2 touchdowns. Oklahoma beats Baylor, and Arkansas beats South Carolina. He is unfortunately 3-11. I am 2.5-13. So yeah, guys, I'm holding it down right now. Who's feeling they got a heater on hand this week?
I'm just verifying how hot of a take this is, but this is my one hot take for the week to either bring me to a whopping 2-11 or 1-12. Purdue's got 2 games before our next show against Michigan State and Penn State. I'll say they lose. They get upset in at least one of those games.
I was really looking at that Rishi just to see. I was thinking about picking Michigan State against Purdue, but if you're gonna take Purdue to take an L, that's cool. That's cool because I'll go to. Obviously, I'm sticking college basketball. I will get one of these right eventually. I will pick 2 games this week. I will pick UAB upsetting number 21 ranked Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic is 20-1, 10-0 in the Central USA Conference. UAB is 14-7, 5-5. UAB has a guy by the name of Jelly Walker. If you haven't seen this guy play, check this man out. I think he dropped 30 this weekend. When do they play? They play next Thursday. They play the February 2nd. So I believe he drops 30 and UAB wins. And I'll also take another game that night. I'm going to pick in the WCC. I'm going to pick Santa Clara giving Gonzaga another conference loss.
Wow.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to stick on the basketball hot takes, college basketball, because who doesn't enjoy some college basketball hot takes? I'm looking for some steamers here. I am going to go, how bad is Boston College? Oh, wow. Oh, whoa. It might be like picking Louisville. Could they do it? No, I mean they hung on with Duke. You know what? Why not? I got the boys of BC going in and catching a game winner against I'm not gonna say a 3, but I'm just gonna say a game winner to beat Virginia. And then I'm also gonna parlay this. This is tough.
I think that could be standalone hot take.
I'm going an Oscar Tshiebwe player prop for this weekend. I'm going to go Oscar goes 20. I go 20 points, 20 boards. I think he's going to get a triple-double. And let's just say 10 assists is tough, but I don't think he's going to get 10 steals.
I was going to say, this is really hot because there's no way Oscar Tshiebwe is getting a triple-double. Not a chance.
If Alex gets both of these legs of the parlay right, we get to flip his hot take record from 2-13 or whatever to 13-2.
Yes, 13-2.5. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. I'm just kidding. I'm going to go Oscar Tshiebwe double-double, 20 points, 20 rebounds. And then I'm going to go with Severe Wheeler also gets a double-double, and he drops 10 points, 12 assists.
A
Boom.
lot of assists.
Banger hot take, gentlemen. That's a great show. I enjoyed that. NBA, if you're watching an NFL, we better see our royalties if you come out with this. We'll know you watched it. I can see who all views it on YouTube. So
Leave us
it's
a
a great
comment in the
weekend of
chat.
sports. Everybody's excited. I'm excited. We'll be back with you next week to talk about possible Super Bowl. I don't know if we're going to do a Super Bowl next week. I'm really on the fence. We have a lot to talk about the NFL. I do want to do my new segment. I want to do the coaching crystal ball before all these coaches get hired. I want to try and get it done. So we're going to get that done. We'll have a lot to talk about. We'll probably talk about some more college basketball because it just seems to get better and better. And then we'll talk a little bit about the NBA. But we'll be back next week. It's been great to have you guys on. Have a wonderful rest of your day and go watch some sports. See you guys.